Judge, I'm going to step away and grab some water real quick while we're waiting on Daniel.
Okay. As long as it's just water.
Does it count if it's just clear?
That's acceptable on Zoom. My problem is everything I like is brown.
Just put it in a coffee mug.
There you go. We're here on a permanency hearing, and is the department ready?
Department's ready. Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Erica Flores is my permanency specialist. We're present ready.
And Mr. Turman is the mother ready?
Yes, so Ryan Turman for the mother. We're both present and ready.
And Mr. Jackson's filling in for Mr. Barfield. And Joel, are you ready on behalf of the father?
Your Honor, I'm ready. It's my understanding that Mr. Barfield is not had contact with Mr. Orta.
Okay, very good.
He's not present.
And I noted that in the report. Also, the court's previously appointed Ms. Zavala as the ad litem. And Stacy, are you ready?
I'm ready, Your Honor.
All right, very good. Daniel, are we going to have some testimony from a couple of folks?
We'll get an update from Ms. Flores on how things are going, and I'll probably have some questions for Ms. Flores and maybe Ms. Garcia also.
Okay, go right ahead.
Ishmael is doing great. Caregiver is doing an exceptional job at making sure that he is current with all his medicals. He is current with his hearing, or actually he has a medical vision test today, and it is a thorough examination of his eyes, which caregiver did take him. It was in Lubbock, so he is over there today. Hearing is up to date. Medical is up to date. He is on medication. The only thing he is currently taking is famotidine, and that's just for his GERD, for his reflex disease. But other than that, I mean, he is thriving. He is doing a great job. So,
Erica, does he live in the same home as a biological sibling, or am I confusing him with somebody?
yes, sir. They caregiver has both the brother and the sister.
And then the sister has already been adopted. Am I right about that? Or
I think you're talking about maybe the older one. They have an older sibling. She's 13, I believe, but it's Ishmael and Jalen that are currently with the caregiver.
Okay. And Jalen, is that a voluntary placement, or was that something that was done by the department as well?
Yes, yeah. They are currently with the caregiver, and that is their I want to say like their second or third cousin. They're cousins. It's a kinship, yes.
Okay. Daniel, any questions you've got for Erica?
Yes, or just a few things. And Erica, I know that it's mostly in the report. I just wanted to go through. So after the last hearing, we were set to go through a reunification plan. Is that correct?
Yes.
And where do we stand on that?
The children were due to be home November 20th. There were some things like appointments, like Ishmael needed to be in Lubbock, and it was the last opportunity. It could not be rescheduled. This was an appointment that had to be done. If they were not to make it, I don't know where they were going to recommend Ishmael go. And there was just things in the home that Leah, just wasn't ready. And Leah did admit she called her cousin and let her know that she just was not ready for the kids to come back home. She does not have tags on her car, which is, it's a concern. At the time, she did not have, I think 2 tires on her car were flat. She was constantly having to air them up. I believe since then she has fixed that. It's just the tags have not, that has not been done yet. But I mean, Leah did admit that she was just not ready for her children to be home just
And did
yet.
I see something about she was in a car wreck also?
Oh, yes. I believe she was in a car accident at a Walmart. She has not made a police report on that. She states that she only has liability, so there's really no point in making a police report
Okay.
to get that covered with her insurance.
Have you began working on a revised schedule?
At the time, right now, we have Connie and Leah communicating with each other just because it is kind of difficult to make a family reunification schedule because Leah doesn't have the tags on her car yet. And it's just a lot of going back and forth with Connie. So the department has, agreed to like let Leah and Connie decide because it's just so much, transportation with Connie dropping them off and picking them up, dropping them off and picking them up.
Okay.
So
right now we're still working toward that. We're just working with placement and mom in order to get that.
Yes. Leah is still seeing her children. So.
Okay. And she's still having unsupervised visits.
Yes.
And are those visits going well?
Yes, they're going well.
Okay. Are we having some issues with late pickups, early drop-offs, that sort of stuff?
There have been some instances where Leah picks up the children because Leah works in the mornings.
Okay.
So it is really, Leah doesn't have, many people to help her with the children. I want to believe it's just Connie that's a great support system for her, but she'll drop off the children and then she, won't pick them up when she's supposed to. And there's been a time where they're like, well, it was a Sunday, I believe, like, hey, are you going to pick up your children? Like, you still have till about like 8 or 9. And like, well, if I need to go pick them up, I can, sort of deal. So
to your knowledge, does she have any daycare, anything like that set up for once the children are reunited? Do you know what the plan is on that?
She plans, Jalen goes to Head Start, and after that she goes to daycare, but they are separate locations because Ishmael goes to a different daycare as well. Okay. She plans to keep them there. If she plans to keep Jalen in Head Start, or if she's just going to pull her out and leave her in daycare, I mean, that's just some. I don't think she can keep Jalen in Head Start and travel to daycare. If that may, like it's, I think it's too much for her.
So for right now, it is not completely ironed out on what the
yes. There's just, she just wasn't, I mean, I was giving her the things, like I gave her a list of things that she needed to do. And it was just like, she called caregiver and was just like, I am just not ready.
Have you been able to get in touch with Dad or to track Dad down?
No, I have not been able. I have swung by Mom's house. She states he's not there. I asked Leah where he's at. She states she has no idea.
All right. I have no further questions, Joe.
Ryan, do you have any questions?
No, I have no questions, Judge.
Joel, anything you'd like to ask?
Just briefly, ma'am, at the last hearing, it was made known to me, I was covering for Mr. Barfield at that time too. And per Mr. Orta's mother, he had gone to the reservation, the Apache tribe. Or were you aware of that?
Yes, sir, I did. I actually called, let me look that up. I called the reservation that he was going to, let me see. I called the Mescarala, New Mexico Tribal Administration Office, and they did not have anybody under that name. Okay,
and then other than that call that you made, I take it that from your report and all that you all have used absolutely every resource that's available to you all to try and locate this man. Is that correct?
Yes, I've submitted accurate searches. I've dug into like old contacts. And he was on probation. Also, I called probation to see if they had any contact with him. He actually got pulled over, I believe, this August, and he has active warrants. And I actually called the county where it was at, I believe it was Potter, and I actually spoke to a prosecutor, and she was not able to give me any kind of information. But I mean, he did get pulled over for no driver's license and driving, or I'm not quite sure what the other ones are, but it was in August.
And you said he has warrants, active warrants in Potter County. Is that what you said?
I want to say they are. I don't know. I know I'm pretty sure they are in Potter, but he has maybe like 5 or 6 active warrants from what I saw on the list.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Pass the witness.
Ms. Zavala, do you have any questions?
Erica, the goal still is reunification once we can get some of these things worked out, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And in addition to some of the things you talked about, some things that we need to get squared away are how Ismail's gonna get to occupational therapy, how Jalen's gonna get to play therapy. Those things need to be accounted for, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then was there also a concern about just making sure there's enough money in the home to provide groceries?
Yes. The last time that I was there, she did have enough food for the day for the children to be there. If they were going to stay the weekend, I would have been concerned. Mom did state that she does get food stamps on the 21st. We did go over a like a financial plan and what she's doing with the rest of the money that she has. I'm not quite sure, but I mean, there is, concern about like having additional money. I know that for Halloween, she was walking around the area that the caregiver is in, and she only had $10 to her name. So, that I do have a little concern about like her financial situation.
Okay, but we're continuing to work with Mom to try to make sure that all those things can be addressed.
Yes.
And the baby's doing well in placement, correct?
He is doing a fantastic caregiver. She is doing an amazing job making sure he is current on all his stuff. He's doing great. He's an adorable he's just so adorable.
I agree. Both placement and Mom are working together on the visitation issues.
Yes. And that's just because, Leah doesn't have tags on her car. She can't have the children in her car. So.
Okay, no further questions.
Erica, one other thing I wanted to ask you about, I noticed part of the order was that she attend 12-step meetings. Have you ever been able to confirm that she is going to those?
She has given me some ones that she's currently going to. There was a period of time, I think the last time that she went was back in March, I believe. But since then, since our last court hearing, she has submitted, I want to say, up to 6 notes to me that she has been going to 12-step.
Just out of curiosity, and you'll have to forgive me because I'm an old drug court judge. I've done that for 15 years. So this kind of stuff interests me. But in addition, when you guys make it an order as part of a CPS hearing to go to 12-step meetings or celebrate recovery, I know you give them some options. Do you actually require them to work the steps, get a sponsor, that kind of thing? Or are they just simply required to go to the meetings?
No, she does have a sponsor. She does. On the notes, the sponsor actually signs off on, the days that she does attend.
Okay, excellent. That's great. Thank you. Okay, I have no further questions. Anybody else have anything? Daniel,
sir.
did you want to?
Not of Miss Flores, no.
Okay, did you want to visit with your other witness?
A couple of things from Miss Garcia.
Is she still on with us?
Yes, sir.
I am.
Oh, I see. Okay, there's.
If I may interject, just so everybody knows, she's very ill today. I think she has COVID. She's not feeling well.
I could tell she didn't feel very good.
Yeah.
So, okay. Leah, can you hear us? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Garcia, have you had any contact with Mr. Orton?
No, sir.
When was your last contact with him?
Around shortly after the case started.
Okay. Was there a incident in July at his mother's house with y'all when police were called out?
No, there was an incident with me and his sister.
Okay. Was he at the house?
Not that I'm aware of, because me and her it was an incident with me and her.
Okay. And what is her name?
Myra.
First name? Myra. Okay. And Mr. Orton was nowhere at the house. So
That I'm aware of.
police did not meet with him at the house.
I don't know. I was outside the fence in the back. I was fighting with her.
And you've had no contact with him whatsoever?
No, sir.
Are you working to get the transportation issues straightened out?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is your car drivable?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You just don't have insurance and tags on it?
I have
Or
insurance.
insurance. You just don't have tags on it?
Yes.
Okay. Your driver's license is valid?
Yes, sir.
On the child care issue, have you kind of got a plan of where you're going with that?
I'm working. I'm gonna I need to apply. I guess they want me to apply for the CCMS. That way it's under my name, or because I know the daycare or Jalen's Head Start had told me that I just needed to go switch everything to my name, but I think they still want me to go ahead and apply for CCMS anyway, just to
Okay.
have that application going for CCMS. But yes, I am trying to work on that as well.
Okay. I have no further questions, John.
Ryan, you have any follow-up?
No, Judge, I don't.
Joel, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Stacy, how about you? Would you have anything you want to ask Ms. Garcia?
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Leah, I'm proud of you for recognizing that it might be not time to reunite. I know that's difficult because that's what you want to happen, but that shows some maturity and some responsibility. I think that you recognize that you weren't quite ready. And so there's absolutely no shame in admitting that. And we'd much rather have you admit to that. Of course, with you being sick now, that probably turned out to be a godsend anyway. But anybody have anything further? I assume the request just is that we would continue the department as temporary managing conservator, that the placement would be found to be appropriate and continue, and then we would just reschedule at a later date to talk about reunifications, see how Leah's made progress on some of these things.
Well, and actually, Your Honor, the next hearing date is the final, which is set in February 6th, I believe.
Okay, and I do show that our next hearing is February the 6th at 9 a.m.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, I will then make that the court's order. I do find that it is in Ishmael's best interest to continue the department as temporary managing conservator. I do find his current placement is appropriate and in his best interest, and will approve that, set the final hearing, and just ask that Mom continue to make progress on those few things that we've still got her working on. And hopefully come February, we'll be able to get those kiddos back home where they belong. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank
This
you,
is
Judge.
Genesis
Thank you, Judge,
Donaldson.
and
We're here
thank
on
you
a
all for accommodating.
compliance
my
hearing. I
request.
think that it originally been scheduled for January 16th, but we moved it up to today due to some concerns. And Mr. Alvey, is the department ready?
Department's ready to proceed, Your Honor.
And Ms. Grant, is Ms. Donaldson ready?
We are ready, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning. And the court's previously appointed Ms. Zavala as the ad litem. And Stacy, are you ready?
I am ready, Your Honor.
All right, very good. Todd, I've read the court summary. It looked like we've been rocking along pretty good. There's just kind of one concern the department has with regard to one of the services that's been recommended.
But there's that, Your Honor, and then we had some concerns that Ms. Donaldson was not being very cooperative with the St. Francis Ministries people. However, since we asked for this change, I guess that Ms. Madrid and Ms. Donaldson have gotten on the same page. So we just need the courts to make sure that Ms. Donaldson is motivated to complete her services.
The one service it looked like that was kind of a sticking point was the Women Against Violence, and having not had much CPS involvement in the past, can you just kind of give me an overview, or somebody maybe that knows kind of an overview of what that program involves?
I can tell you a little bit, and if that's not enough, I'm sure that Ms. Baca can fill us in. This case originated, part of the reason that this case originated was because of some domestic violence between Ms. Donaldson and her paramour. That Women Against Violence course is built for victims of that type of domestic violence. It's to help counsel them, help give them some tools to handle those kind of situations at a later time. So we think that it's important that she complete that as part of the services that we're offering her.
What kind of time commitment are we talking about on behalf of the participant?
I'll have to let Ms. Baca answer that.
Rachel, do you know how many classes and how long they last?
Yes, Your Honor, and it's actually for the aggressors, women who are also the aggressors in the violence. And so whenever I first met with Miss Donaldson, she made it clear that she is the violent one, and due to that, we wanted her to go to this Women Against Violence class. It's not for victims, and I think she was maybe under the impression that it was, and so just so that it's clear, it is not for victims. It's for the aggressors as well. The classes are, I believe, 18 weeks long. So it's pretty lengthy. And then I believe they meet once a week for 2 hours. So
Is that an independent contractor you guys arrange those with?
it's with Family Support Services. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I'm very familiar with them then. And then is it flexible on the meeting times, or is it pretty much, for instance, Tuesday night from 8 to 10 or what? I mean, pretty definite in when you need to be there?
I believe so, yes. She does allow some absences. I'm not sure how many, but she does work with the individual if there are reasons that he or she cannot make it.
And then at the end, I guess if they successfully completed, are they awarded some kind of certificate or acknowledgement that they have done so?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And as far as in your talks with Ms. Donaldson, what have been her reservations about completing that program?
I'm honestly not sure why she doesn't want to complete the program. I believe maybe part of the reason is the length of the class. And then I'm the only other thing that she said to me is that she doesn't want to sit there and listen to other women cry about their stories. And so I believe that's where the victim part came in. Like, I think she thought maybe it was for victims. And so, but that's all that I know.
Okay. Stacy, Stacy Grant, I'm sorry. Have you had a chance to visit with Ms. Donaldson, and are you kind of aware of what her concerns are?
I have, Your Honor. There's several concerns, and the length is of a concern. Obviously, it's a time commitment, and Ms. Donaldson, she has to work and take care of the children, and obviously the things that all parents have going on. But additionally, she's the actual person who reached out to the police that in this incident that began this case, and she feels that requiring her to go to, she was not charged, she was not arrested, she was not taken into custody. She doesn't have any criminal case pending on this. And she feels that by reaching out to the police and then being put into an 18-week class, she feels like she has been, it's coming across to her as kind of a punishment for requesting law enforcement intervention to assist her with a violent situation that was going on in her home. In her statements, I don't think it was her intention to tag herself as the only aggressor. I think that her comments were intended to say that she can be aggressive, but this was not the case here. And so those are her concerns. And the additional concern she has, Your Honor, is the children in this matter are very much frustrated by the number of strangers they've had to have contact with through the case. They're very much expressing to the mother their discontent with the continuation of this case and some of the things that they're having to do. I'll let Ms. Zavala speak to that further. I know that she visited with the children yesterday, and obviously as their attorney is the best to speak to their opinions. And so I don't mean to insert mine over hers. These are just the concerns that my client has brought to me regarding the WAVE class. And she doesn't deny that her and the caseworker have not had the greatest relationship since this began, but they are doing better. But Ms. Donaldson has a high level of frustration, obviously, in this case, in that the children are very frustrated, Judge, and that's hard for her as a mother to navigate and not be frustrated. And she's highly frustrated as well. She's expressed that to me, but the WAVE class does extend the case for 18 weeks, and she very much fears how much further that will involve more people in the children's lives, more so than only hers, because of their frustration.
To your knowledge, does this particular, group that we're talking about, the Women Against Violence, does it require any participation by the children?
It does not. So we could, Your Honor, our hope would be to maybe start letting the children return to some type of normalcy, even if we can't dismiss the case, which is obviously what Miss Donaldson is asking today, we would, ask to, confer with Miss Zavala, or let her report to the court and see if there's anything she recommends or that the children are asking for today in regard to their participation and their level of strangers in and out of their lives right now. They're very frustrated by that.
Okay, well, Stacy Zavala, let me let you address that if you would.
Sure. I met in person with the kids last night in the home. I didn't have concerns about the home. The kids were great. We had some nice visits. I love getting told that someone is the tallest and the smartest in their class. And got to hear about orchestra and band and some really great things. So I've got no concerns about the kids in the home at this time. Now, none of the children expressed any specific concerns to me in terms of this case. They expressed feeling safe with mom, and seemed to have a positive relationship with each other and with mom. But no one specifically, I explained my role in terms of I'm somebody who can talk about any concerns. I can answer questions. I can talk to the judge for you. None of the three expressed any specific concerns to me to express. And I don't believe the WAVE class requires any of their intervention. I do know that mom is set up with therapy with Steve Jennings, and I know transportation could be an issue. I know that time and childcare may be an issue as well. And so it may be that Steve Jennings can address some of those issues. But in terms of the kids, I thought they were doing well. And I've got no specific concerns about them in the home, and they didn't express any specific concerns to me about this case.
In terms of them being involved with other people outside of the family, it looks to me in reading the report, and perhaps I'm wrong, but the one thing in the future that we anticipate for them is maybe some individual counseling, and that's supposed to start on this Wednesday. Did you have an opportunity to specifically talk about the kids about that upcoming event and how they felt about that?
I did not bring that up with them specifically. I did talk with mom. I knew that was coming up, and I knew that from the reports. In general, I usually think that therapy and family therapy is a good idea for these families, but I did not speak with them specifically about how they felt about that.
Okay, and we're talking about maybe is the youngest like around 8, and maybe the oldest is 13. Is that close?
I believe that's right. We've got 2nd, 5th, and 6th, if I've got the grades correct.
Oh, okay.
7th is the oldest.
Okay. And so in terms of at least their ability to communicate with you and you feel like they're all able, and if they were having some major concerns, they would be able to express that if they had them?
I would hope so. I mean, we haven't developed a long-standing relationship by any means. This was our first visit. But I mean, they seem to be doing well in the home, and they didn't have, they seem to be doing well with mom. And I would hope that I'm approachable enough that they could feel comfortable talking with me.
I feel very comfortable telling you anything. So.
Okay, great.
And probably
Your Honor, my client, Judge Miss Donaldson has begun with Steve Jennings. She has her 2nd appointment with him tomorrow, and the children will also be seeing Steve Jennings. So they do have that relationship with Steve Jennings. Miss Donaldson does not have family nearby, so she doesn't have a daycare, a child care support system like some of us might have with having family close by. And just that time commitment is a huge struggle on that 18 weeks. And if we could possibly involve it with the individual counseling through Mr. Jennings, I don't know if Todd would be agreeable to that, but that would be very helpful in allowing Miss Donaldson to engage in some services that I know Steve Jennings is more than qualified to provide, obviously. But transportation and childcare are struggles for Miss Donaldson.
Genesis, we've been talking about you. Let me give you an opportunity. You're here with us if you want to, and you don't feel like you have to, but if there's anything you'd like to address about your concerns, I'd be happy to have you weigh in. You're on mute, so you'll have to unmute yourself.
Hi, Your Honor. So like Stacy, my lawyer, said, like, I feel like I'm being treated like a circus seal. Like I'm just meant to jump through hoops when all I did was stop a situation from happening. And myself, I moved my kids here from a situation that I didn't feel was best for them. We moved to a whole different state by ourselves with nobody. So my kids are always going to come first, no matter before myself. That's common sense. That's what a mother does. But to be told that I have to continue to do stuff and do stuff and do stuff, I'm a veteran. I have a lot of mental health problems. My anxiety is through the roof right now. And I'm trying to keep my tone and my composure, but it's hard when you're being told you're doing something wrong when you didn't do nothing wrong in the first place.
Well, let me address that because I think
Yeah, I'd
sometimes,
like to also make a response if I can, Your Honor.
let me respond and then I'll let you. Genesis, I think sometimes when we're talking about, probation, or we're talking about CPS involvement, or I'll just let you know, I've run a drug court for 15 years now where I meet every Friday with addicts, and also most of the folks have, a co-occurring mental health disorder, often anxiety or depression. And when they first come to me and see me every Friday, I've got them going to 12-step meetings and individual counseling and meeting with Texas Panhandle Centers and going to classes 2 times a week. And I mean, we really do overload them and require a lot of them. But the thing is that drug court, just like this CPS court, instead of being where people are banging their heads against each other, it's a collaboration where we all try to get together and therapeutically come up with something not to do to you, but to do for you. And then in hopes that in turn does something for your children. And so I think sometimes the misperception is, and I totally understand it, when you're overloaded with things to do, you do start feeling like it's being done to you and not for you. And so I can totally understand that, but I just want to assure you that nothing we're doing here is meant to punish you or punish the kids. It truly is a collaboration where we're trying to work together and formulate what I would call a treatment plan or a success plan for you and for those kids. I can tell you, based on not so much, I'm again not that familiar with the women's program, but I'm very familiar, having been a judge for 23 years, with the programs that we have men go through. The benefit of those, and I know sometimes it's like any other kind of group thing, you do kind of have to sit there and listen to some other people's stories, but we benefit, I think, when we hear how other people have maybe been through something similar to us, number one, so we're not quite as alone in our situation. But then also sometimes being able to see it from an outsider's point of view gives us maybe some insight into our own situation. And sometimes we see successes that other people have had, and we're able to think about that and think, oh, maybe I could do something similar, or maybe I could approach this the way that person. And so that's the benefit of those group programs. And I know it's a time commitment and a transportation commitment. So other than just your general feeling that you're being somehow punished, and I hope I've addressed that. You may not agree with me, but that's my take on it. But putting that aside, let's talk about transportation and time and see if those aren't things we can work with you on. How normally would you get to a meeting like that? Do you have your own vehicle, or do you rely on others? How do you get to your appointments?
Abby takes me to counseling because it's in Canyon. Other than that, I walk. If it's within walking distance, I walk my kids to school every morning. That's how they get to school. We don't have transportation. And like they said, I'm out here by myself. I literally moved here with my kids with nothing but a car full of clothes. I don't know anybody out here to leave my kids with, to go to a class and have to sit there for that amount of time. I have to cook dinner. I have homework. My kids are in extracurricular activities. I don't have the support system that they assume I have here.
What, you live,
Yes.
and I'm unfamiliar with that address, but about how far away are you from Family Support Services? Do you know?
I live in the Hamlet area, and Family Support Services is downtown.
Okay. And so if transportation is a problem and we could address that, then what's your understanding of the hours, the day and the time period you'd be required to commit to if you went to those classes? Do you know that?
I don't, but then like I said, who's going to watch my kids? Who's going to make them dinner? Who's going to help with their homework? My daughter has choir, she has orchestra, my son has band. Like, I'm a single mother out here by myself.
I assume those classes are in the evening, Rachel?
Yes.
Okay. And so what I assume then the kids' extracurricular activities are probably over with by then. Is your concern that you'd be leaving 3 children at the home in the evening hours alone while you go to those classes?
Yes, I don't know anybody out here. I don't know this area to leave my kids at the house by themselves.
Rachel, do we know, and I'm unfamiliar with, does Family Support Services allow any kind of childcare while people are in classes, or do we have childcare available to make sure the kids are safe during that period of time?
I don't believe Family Support Services provides childcare, Your Honor. However, Ms. Donaldson has said that her neighbor and her landlord, who is also her neighbor, have been her support systems. I don't know how much, I don't know how often. Those are just the only 2 support people that I know of.
If we gave her a little bit of time to make arrangements, is that something the department can confirm, that number one, that she's got dependable transportation, whether it's, whether we arrange public transportation or however we figure that out, and number 2, that the children will be safe in the home while she attends those classes? Is that something we could formulate a plan to kind of alleviate those concerns?
Yes, Your Honor, we can sure try.
Okay. What typically and again, you're going to have to excuse me because I just don't have that much familiarity locally here in Amarillo. Do we, I know some organizations like Texas Panhandle Centers and others have some contract with a transportation company it's kind of like Uber or something, but it'll pick people up and transport them. Do we have anything like that available through the department?
We have HSTs who help us with transportation whenever they're available. That's pretty much. And then, of course, I can help when I'm available. St. Francis has helped when they're able to. And so we can all try to get together. We might have to use public transportation. I can't really say at this point. But we could try to work something out.
Let me ask this too. And of course, I've been, like I told you guys, I've been doing a drug court for 15 years, and I know that in person, face to face works so much better when we're talking about 12 steps or any kind of group dynamic. But if worse came to worse and we weren't able to kind of satisfy the transportation and the childcare issues, is there the ability to complete that particular class online?
I don't believe it's online. I would have to speak to Family Support Services to see if they are willing and able to do it virtually. That might be an option. I'm not honestly sure. I would have to speak to them to find out.
Could we do those things and see if we then can't alleviate those concerns? And we're not ever going to maybe totally get past Genesis's feeling that we're punishing her, but I can assure that's not our intent. And I'm not going to let that interfere with the court's order, but I would like to address what I feel like are some legitimate concerns she has about the transportation and the child care.
Yes, sir.
Todd, you wanted to weigh in, and I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, you're good, Judge. I wasn't going to say much more than what you've said, so I'm very good with leaving it be.
Okay.
Abby Madrid is their St. Francis Ministries caseworker. She's in the house more than Rachel is, and I think that some of our concerns were that there was some animosity between Miss Donaldson and Miss Madrid, but I think that's been alleviated because there's been some contact. So she might be able to help with some of the transportation issues also. So,
Abby, would you like to weigh in on that? Do you have anything maybe to offer the court on possible solutions?
So I took her to counseling the first time, and I'm also going to be taking her and the kids to counseling on Wednesday. However, it just depends on what time the classes are. I haven't heard what time the classes are, but I can get with Rachel, and I'm sure we can try to work something out.
Okay, well, if you guys would contact Family Support Services and one, just make sure we're all on the same page about exactly what night or nights of the week, how many hours are required. You know, when, I don't know if they kind of start a class and then they expect that whole group to move through the process at the same time, or if you can, you know, jump in at any time in the process. But we might want to find out when the next potential start date for Ms. Donaldson would be, so we kind of have a target for what we're working towards. And once we identify that, then if we could just then sit down and address with her the transportation issue and the child safety issues, that would be much appreciated. And Stacy, and if you don't mind, include Ms. Grant in those discussions, so she'll be able to, and Ms. Zavala too, so they'll be able to express to their clients. Sometimes it's better heard from the lawyers, and they have a good relationship with their clients. But if we can kind of all work together towards that end. And Genesis, I know you probably maybe don't agree with me on whether we're doing something to you or for you, but I hope you feel like at least you've been heard, and we're going to try to address what I feel like are some legitimate concerns from you. Let me ask you one other thing. Do you currently, you mentioned you're a veteran, and thank you for that. Do you currently receive any services from the VA?
No, Your Honor, I'm still waiting for my mental health care appointment. And that's what I spoke to Ms. Grant about this morning, that if I can get the services, because I'm already going to individual counseling and taking my kids and they're missing school going to counseling, why can't I just sum it all together with one person? Why do I have to go to a different class where I have to find childcare for my kids when they're already with me, because I make the counseling appointments where we can all go at the same time?
Right. And my thought would be, you know, the counseling, of course, deals with certain subjects. The class that we're asking you to attend kind of deals with something else. But I promise you, if you find out the VA has something similar to what we're asking you to do, and that works better for your schedule and something you're more as a veteran, comfortable with, man, I can't speak on behalf of Judge Baker, who's not here today, but I think I know her pretty well. And I think she'd be willing to consider that too. So you might reach out to the VA and find out what kind of services they have. And if that's something that works better and addresses some of these concerns we've got, then I think that's sure something we would consider. Again, it's not some formulaic thing where you just need to check off these boxes. We really are trying to formulate a plan that's good for you and your situation and your children. And so I'm sure willing to be flexible on that. If you want to do some research and find out if there's something else available to you that works better. Okay.
I've already asked them, Your Honor. The only thing they offer is anger management, which I'm already signed up for because they required me to do anger management. So there's nothing else the VA offers because I'm not a victim of sexual trauma. So that's the only other class that they offered that would be anything remotely close to what you guys are asking me to do.
Okay. Well, and I appreciate that you've looked into that, and that's good. Okay. Well, I know we've got a hearing currently.
Judge
Yes.
Ward, can I provide the court with a little more information?
Sure.
On the WAVE classes at Family Support Services, they're 2-hour courses, and they do offer them at different times of the day. They have different, to answer what the court was asking, they have different groups that are going through at different times. You just have to complete all 18 classes. They do allow a certain number of absences. I don't know what that number is, but so I would ask that perhaps we schedule a Teams meeting by phone with the people in the room that need to be there. And I'll bring some research to the meeting regarding availability after getting with Genesis of both alternate options that might be agreeable to Todd in the department, along with scheduling that might work with Genesis scheduling, people that need help with transportation. And perhaps if we could just have another conference by phone and I can bring detailed information, we could work this out and get a plan together.
That'd be great. Do you want to just send out an email to the people you think ought to be on that and set that up?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
That'd be wonderful. I mean, based on what you know so far, is there the possibility that those groups might meet maybe while the kids are at school or involved in extracurricular activities?
There is a session that runs from 12 to 2 in the afternoons, but I have not approached my client with that to know her work schedule, to know if that would work. So that's why I'm thinking a conversation from me to Family Support Services, getting the options that are available for times of day, talking to Genesis with her work schedule, and perhaps myself and my client having this phone meeting and offering up a schedule that would work for her.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I think that's what we're all working towards. So that sounds like a wonderful development. And I know we've got a hearing scheduled for February the 20th at 9 on compliance, but that gives you plenty of time to get that worked out. And hopefully you guys can come to an accommodation on that. So we'll go ahead and just continue to require that, that or something similar to it that we're all comfortable with, and something that also addresses Genesis's concerns. And with that, I'll then conclude this hearing, and I'll see you guys, or Judge Baker will, back in February.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. Thanks, you all.
Yeah, Judge,
Bye-bye.
I'm here.
Well, we can't see your pretty face. It's just, not the same.
That's tragic. Yeah.
And we're here on a compliance hearing. And is the department ready?
Department's ready to proceed, Your Honor.
And Mr. Hammonds is available by phone, and he represents Ms. Candido. And TD, are you ready?
Ready, Judge.
I'm saying that wrong, Cananedo. And we've previously appointed Ms. Zavala as the ad litem. And Stacy, are you ready?
I am, Your Honor.
Very good. And the court has been provided with a compliance summary, which I have reviewed last night. And with that, Todd, you just kind of want to give me an update, or do you want to call some witnesses?
Your Honor, if it pleases the court, I'll just let Ms. Hughes give you an update.
That'd be great. Sherry, go ahead and kind of update us on what's going on.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
Ms. Candido was in Synacor when the case originally opened with investigations, and then it did transfer to family-based in September, actually on the 14th of this year. When I reached out to try to speak with her, she had been dismissed from Synacor here in Amarillo, but then found a bed at the Synacor in Waco, where she went and was able to complete the Synacor inpatient treatment with a certificate, and I do have a copy of that. I was able to meet with her well in the month of October, except for about the last week, we lost contact. I wasn't able to reach her. I had asked her to drug screen and had no reply. Pretty much the month of November, I had a really hard time staying in contact with her. She stated that her phone wasn't working and her car was stolen, and lots of obstacles for her to do her services. However, yesterday I was finally able to connect with she and the maternal grandfather who has Zade, because I had a hard time seeing Zade as well in the month of November. But I met with everybody yesterday. I think we had a good understanding of how much contact I need to have, however, whatever the obstacles are for Ms. Candido, that, she and I talked about maybe her riding the bus, or when she's at her father's house seeing Zade, that possibly she could borrow his phone and give me a call or send me a text and kind of let me know what's going on with her and the services that she's completed. While I was there yesterday, I was able to give her the contact information again for her psychological and for the rational behavior therapy class. She did texted me late yesterday and gave me a date for the psychological, which is December the 12th. December the 19th of this year. I don't have a date yet for the rational behavior therapy. I have not been able to see in her apartment yet. So I'm just going off her word that she does still live there. And then as far as employment, she did tell me yesterday she's been cleaning some houses. But that doesn't seem like it's a steady income. She said that it was here and there, and I think her father is helping her get there since her car was stolen. Like I say, yesterday the baby looked really well when I saw her. She's in a good place, and I also helped the family understand that Zade can only go with those that have been approved by the department. I believe there's a maternal grandmother that she had been spending time with, but I had no contact information for her. I now have a phone number for her, so I'll get in touch with her to see about meeting with her, seeing her house, and running a background check on her so that she can help out this with Zade and the maternal grandfather. I was able to text with Iris this morning and make sure that she got some type of connection to this hearing. She was concerned about not having that. So I was glad to see that she's on here.
Sherry, in terms of the biological father, no contact with him at all?
No, sir.
Have we ever established any kind of communication with him?
No, sir. It's my understanding from investigations, I believe he is in prison, but I don't have much to go on from that.
Judge, we did not include him in our case, so he's not ordered to do any services at this time.
Okay, excellent. And Sherry, with regard to drug screens, when is the last drug screen we got?
That would have been when investigations had that. I tried to she and I were supposed to meet on November the 17th at her dad's house. And I had planned to oral swab her there, but she did not show. So we just haven't had that connection of getting her to drug screen.
Where do we usually have her go somewhere to do that?
Yes, sir. Care Express here in Amarillo.
Do you know, since her release from Synacor in Waco, has she continued with any 12-step programs or any kind of aftercare that you're aware of?
Yes, sir. When I talked to her yesterday, she stated that she had her sign-in sheets, but apparently they were in her car, which was stolen. And I gave her a new sign-in sheet yesterday, and she was going to try to get a hold of where she was going to her meetings, and possibly they can give her those dates again where she could write those down for me.
And with regard to that, do we have a set number of meetings per week we require?
She and I had visited about at least 2 times a week. I know Synacor had also wanted her to do that as well when she did finish their program.
And when we do that, do we require them to get a sponsor and start their step work?
Yes, and she said yesterday that she does have a sponsor, but she said that she has not been in contact with her that much. And when I did talk to her yesterday, I asked her if she has had the urge to use, and she was very honest, and I was very appreciative of that. She stated that when her car was stolen, she did have the urge, but that she did not follow through with that. So I was proud of her for that.
Good. Just out of curiosity, you don't know this about me, but I run the drug court here and have for 15 years. So I have a good relationship with Synacor. Do you guys ever, they have a fairly new program they call IOP, where there's 2 kind of intensities. They have one where people go out to Synacor once a week and just do a follow-up, meeting. And then I think there's another more intense one where they're going 2 or 3 times a week. Have you guys had an opportunity to utilize that yet?
No, sir, we haven't. I did not know about that, but I'd be glad to look into that.
Yeah, Connie out there that used to be with Downtown Women's Center runs those, and they've been very helpful to some of our folks in their aftercare situation. So I would just offer that up to you. Just generally, if you ever have the need for that, that's a really good offering that they've got out there.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Let's see. TD, do you have any questions for Ms. Hughes?
No, Judge.
Stacy, anything you'd like to ask?
No questions, Your Honor.
Todd, do you have any follow-up with Ms. Hughes?
I do not, Your Honor. We're good.
Very good. TD, have you had a chance to kind of visit with Iris about some of Ms. Hughes' concerns and maybe able to formulate an action plan going forward?
I have, Judge. I mean, I can just inform you that, she is in the process of getting all of her services done. She does live at the same apartment. I will encourage her to certainly maintain a little bit more of a line of communication with Miss Hughes, but I did tell Iris today it may be in her best interest, and if you will, order her to get a hair follicle and urine so we can, if she is clean today, great. Zade is with maternal grandpa. Iris is able to visit pretty much as she wants, as long as there's an approved person supervising. So, we were just going to ask the court today if she is clean and if she maintains that line of communication, if the court would consider maybe stepping up a little bit her visitation. For instance, maybe a couple hours unsupervised, take her to the park, something like that. But, she is very young. I do understand the court's concern, make sure she is clean and sober and, living that kind of lifestyle for a couple months.
Okay.
But that's kind of where we are. I do believe she needs to certainly maintain communication with Ms. Hughes on a regular basis.
Stacy, what kind of contact have you been able to have with, and I know this is a very young child we're talking about.
So Zade is precious, and I've been able to visit with her in grandfather's home, and she looks great. She seems very comfortable there. The house is very appropriate. I've got no safety concerns about her with grandfather. I think, he appears to be supervising what needs to be supervised. The report raised some red flags just in terms of lack of communication and lack of drug screening. If mom is in fact clean and continues to be clean, I've got no problem ramping up visitation. But right now, as to the communication that's been had and the information we have, we just don't have a lot of information to know if mom is clean. But as to where Zade is and how she's doing, I think she's doing great. And I've got no concerns there.
What kind of support system does Granddad have in terms of other people in the home that can kind of help him out?
It sounds like they've got a good extended family, and I know Sherry was just saying that they've got information on grandmother, and he did mention to me about her being able to step in and help. I think at the time we had that conversation, I didn't realize she hadn't been pre-approved, but it sounds like they're willing to go through anything they need to give that information. I think maybe they just didn't realize they needed to do that. But it sounds like there's an extended family and friend group that could be very helpful.
Do we know, does Granddad work outside the home?
I believe I've got that information somewhere, and I unfortunately do not have it in front of me.
That's okay.
But I bet Ms. Hughes would know.
I don't believe that he does. And there is
Okay.
also a maternal aunt that was approved by the department, and she has her some also.
Okay. And that may, is that Granddad on screen there? Hi, and that's okay, good. Okay, well, let's see. Stacy, just well, you've told me kind of your thoughts on the best interest of the child. Todd, anybody else you'd like to hear from?
No, Your Honor, I'm good.
Iris, do you have the ability to unmute your phone? Iris, I'm Judge Board, and I'm just filling in today for Judge Baker. So I'm kind of like a substitute teacher, but you heard me mention I've run a drug court for 15 years. And so every Friday I spend the day with folks that are on probation, that are struggling with alcohol and drug issues, and often, quite frankly, some mental health issues as well. So I have a little bit of experience. Let me just tell you, when you kind of fall off the radar for a while, based on my 15 years experience with drug addicts and alcoholics, our immediate concern, of course, is that you've, relapsed. And
Yes, sir.
so you can understand why it's so important to stay in contact.
Yes, sir.
You graduated from the Synacor program.
Yes, sir.
I know that's tough. I'm not very familiar with the Waco program, but I'm very familiar with the Amarillo program. So I'm very proud of you for that. That's an amazing accomplishment in itself. Tell me what you're doing kind of as far as your aftercare. Are you attending some 12-step meetings?
I go to NA meetings on, it's called, or on Cornell on 45th. My next step, I believe.
Yes.
Yes, I was going at least 3-4 times out of the week until my car got stolen. So I haven't been able to get to where I need to be like I was. And I also went a whole month without my phone. So, but I have been attending the NAs, and I will have a log for that because I was going.
And you've got a sponsor.
Yes, sir.
Tell me her first name. I don't need to know her last name.
I don't even know her first name, honestly. I don't remember her name. She works at I know she works at the painting on 45th. It's a paint. I don't remember, honestly.
Has she started you on any kind of reading the big book or doing any kind of workbook or step work?
She bought me 2 books there, but they got stolen in the car.
Okay. One of the things I'll tell you about NA that I really love as opposed to AA is NA has an actual workbook that you can work through the steps with your sponsor. And I'll bet that's one of the things. She probably bought you a big book and the workbook. And the big book's kind of like reading the Old Testament, but it's got some really wonderful things in there. But that workbook's incredible. I would just suggest to you that you visit with her about that. Do you have a pen and a piece of paper you can write something down for me?
Yes, I sure do.
Okay. You've got access to the internet, right?
Yes.
While you're trying to resolve your vehicle situation, there are online NA meetings that you can do just on your phone and keep up with that. And so you won't kind of lose the good head start you've got on that. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So look up on the internet. It's called NIN the rooms, ROOMS, in the rooms.
In
the rooms, ROOMS.
Okay.
If you'll type that into Google or whatever, it will give you a link. And there's meetings all day long, all different kinds of meetings. And I think you'll find that very helpful while you're waiting to get your transportation issues settled and can get back to going in person. Okay.
Nice. Okay. So it's in the letter N and then in the rooms.
No, like in the rooms.
Okay.
Okay. And so check into that for me. And then you and Miss Hughes, have you guys kind of got on the same page about being able to contact each other and make sure you're working your services?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then you're currently, do you pronounce your daughter's name Zade?
Zade. Yes, Zade.
And so how often are you getting to see Zade right now?
I mean, I get to see her pretty much when as much as I want. Like, I just got to make it to my dad and my sister's house, or they'll come pick me up as long as I'm not working or in class, or I'm over there at my sister's or my dad's.
Do you and your dad have a good relationship?
Yes, sir.
And I imagine when you were in your addiction, you might have burned a few bridges with him, right?
Yes, sir, I did.
But he can see the progress that you've made, and I'm guessing he's proud of you for what you've accomplished so far.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, yeah.
Good. It's good to have family support.
It was so hard, but yeah, she's doing. I'm testifying, she's doing much better, and it's a relief for me. It's a blessing for me. She's doing way better.
Yes. Well, thank you, sir, for stepping up for Zade, and we're going to continue to work with Iris, and I think you're going to continue to see improvement and build that trust back that a father and daughter need to have. So, Iris, if you will, just until you can get your your car situation settled. As much as you can, try to make those meetings in person because it's so much better than online. But online is better than nothing. And if you guys will make those efforts to stay in touch with Ms. Hughes, I would like for you to go get drug tested today. Do you know where to go to get that done?
Yes, sir.
So go get a hair follicle and a urinalysis, okay?
Yes, sir.
That hair follicle will kind of help us confirm that you've continued to stay clean, and then that urinalysis will give us a more immediate look at what's going on. But keep up the good work, and we are scheduled to get back together on February the 20th at 9 a.m. And why don't we get some clean drug tests, in place in the meantime? And I'd like for you to how often are we asking her, Miss Hughes, to go get tested?
Just once a month, Your Honor.
Okay. So we ought to have a couple of then good clean screens to look at by next time we meet. And at that time, Iris, if you've complied with everything and kept your sobriety, then we'll talk about unsupervised visitation, and hopefully by then you'll have your transportation issue solved. And Iris, are you currently working at all?
Yes. Cleaning houses throughout the week.
Okay. And I know sometimes that's kind of cash only basis. Are you getting any kind of paycheck or anything?
I get paid cash every Friday.
If Ms. Hughes wanted to confirm your employment, are there people that she could visit with that would at least confirm that you're working?
Yes, sir. I can give her the lady that I work for, Shelly, her information, and she could speak with her.
Okay, perfect. If you would get that information for her and provide that to her, because we'll want to be able to confirm that. And then are you still living in the same place that she visited before?
Yes, I'm here now. Yes.
Okay. And I know she'll want to visit and make sure that's an appropriate place for when you start having unsupervised visitation. And then is there anything else, Todd, we need Iris to be working on?
I didn't hear if you ordered that she drug screened today.
I did.
Okay, then that's all I would require.
Okay, very good. Stacy, any other concerns you've got you'd like me to address?
No, Your Honor.
Do you feel like you've got good access and can work well with the folks?
Yes, grandfather was very cooperative. I've got no concerns about that.
Great. Well, he seems like a great guy, and that's a wonderful blessing for all of us to have him involved. So, all right. Well, with that, then I will continue the current service plan. I do find that the current placement is appropriate and in Zade's best interest, and I will continue that. And then we'll discuss, or Judge Baker can discuss, stepping up the visitation, and we'll see you guys back here on February the 20th, unless we need to meet before then.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Iris, keep up the good work. I'm really proud of you. I'll tell you what, we don't see success all the time. And so it's wonderful to see somebody doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I just need you to up your contact with Ms. Hughes, but I think we're on the right road, and I really have great hopes for you. And I think this is going to be one of those happy endings. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
I always enjoy when Judge Baker or somebody gives me an opportunity. I used to be scared to death of CPS stuff. It's so foreign compared to what we normally do, but I never realized how much it is like drug court, where it's more collaborative and you really are giving people opportunities and giving people the help they need. And you don't always have success, but when you do, it's such a wonderful feeling. I really enjoy it.
My first couple cases in CPS court were not appointments; they were paid clients, and we would do what I would call the cattle call, where we all showed up in the old library on the second floor. But what I learned early on is what you said earlier. It's not punishment; it's a success plan. This is the only court, other than drug court, where everyone, including Daniel, and I love Daniel, everyone wants my clients to win. So I love that. I mean, I like the idea of drug court and CPS court, and frankly, the VA court, where we want the people in front of the barrel to win. and we give them every opportunity to win. So I like that. So I'll get off my soapbox. It's good to see you, Judge.
You too. And we're here on a permanency review before the final order. The court has reviewed the permanency report. And is the department ready?
Department is ready, Your Honor, and Daniel Trout for the department and Tori Cook is my permanency specialist today.
TD is not on screen, but he is available on phone. And TD, you represent the mother, Martha Martinez, and are you ready?
That's correct, Judge. I am ready. I can tell you I have 3 phone numbers for her. I've called all of them. I've had no luck. So I don't know if, she even knows to join us today.
Okay, very good. And Vince, you represent Rudy Reyes, the father, and are you ready?
I'm ready, Judge, and I emailed Rudy today's docket and the way to hook up with a Zoom. And I tried to call the last number I had for him, and I have the same problem that TD has. I haven't had any contact with my client. The last hearing was August 1st, and he actually appeared. And I talked to him prior to that. The court ordered drug tests. He did not show up for that drug test. So I am here and I'm ready to talk about this case, Judge, but my client is not. So thank you.
Very good. And you guys are both notably handicapped. And Ms. Zavala, you've been previously appointed as the ad litem, and are you ready?
I am, Your Honor.
Very good. And Daniel, are you going to call some witnesses?
Ms. Cook will give an update on what's going on with the case at this point.
Okay, Tori, if you don't mind, just give us an update on what's going on with our Ariel.
So Ariel is doing absolutely fabulous. She is growing, hitting milestones. She's all nice and fat and chunky now. No signs of any, she was having her tremors due to the methamphetamine exposure, but no signs of that for months now. She's sleeping and eating well, and she is bonded very well with her foster family and is placed with a full blood sibling who she's also bonded with quite well. On the other hand, with parents, like their attorneys were saying, I've had the same issues. All phone numbers I haven't been able to connect to. I have driven past their last places of their residence and no success there. I did run an accurate search this month on both parents, and the phone numbers and addresses were all the same ones that I had on file. So I did send emails as well to Rudy, and no response there either.
Remind me, Tori, the biological sibling, has that child been adopted?
Yes, sir.
Placed?
Yeah.
How long ago did that occur?
I want to say it's almost been a year.
Yeah.
She's been there a while.
Was that a voluntary thing, or did that occur through court intervention?
The foster parents were willing. It was also a CPS case, and foster parents adopted that child as well.
Okay, very good. And remind me roughly the age of that child.
I believe she should be 2 pretty soon, if she's not too.
Judge, she turns 2 December 9th.
Oh, awesome. Good. And so you've had an opportunity to view the interaction Ariel has with her, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, they don't say many words, but they babble back and forth constantly with each other. It's quite cute.
Great. Daniel, any follow-up questions you've got for Tori?
I don't believe I do. I think she's kind of answered everything. We still having struggles finding the parents. From everything I've seen, kids are doing great.
Vince, do you have any questions you've got for Ms. Cook?
I think that Ms. Cook has done a great job, and I have no questions, Judge.
Very good. TD, any questions for Tori?
No, sir.
Stacey, how about you? Any questions for Ms. Cook?
I've not. I don't have any questions. Just a recommendation and report.
Well, good. Let me then let you follow up with your report. I'm anxious to hear about your interactions. Okay.
Ariel is precious, and she is doing great. She's been in this home since she was 4 days old. She's almost 10 months now. To watch her and her sister, you can just see her just watching and learning, and the kind of nonverbal communication that goes on between the two. It's really neat to watch. She has just thrived where she is, and I would recommend that placement continue, and that she not be moved from that placement unless there's an agreement or a court order.
Do we know currently, Tori, have the placement folks expressed an interest in adoption on down the line if that becomes an option?
Yes, they have. And we even talked about it with our director and confirmed that they would be considered fictive kin since they did adopt the sibling.
Because we haven't had any contact with basically with the biological parents or very little, at any time has anybody made any kind of referral to any family that might be appropriate alternative
There
placements?
was a home study done on the paternal grandmother. I have not heard from them since I believe mid-August, even any updates on Ariel or anything like that.
What do you know what the findings were in terms of the appropriateness of that placement?
Yeah, I believe it was approved with some concerns. Just with the previous child, paternal grandmother wasn't willing to basically kick Rudy out of the house while using drugs to be placement for the older sibling. And then we did have some issues with the grandmother's husband who didn't comply with getting his background checks to us. So those were our concerns.
Okay, and I think obviously when we've got a home with a biological sibling present that already has been approved and proven, that that would seem to be the appropriate placement at this time. Vince, anything? Well, first of all, Daniel, anything else on behalf of the department?
Nothing else, Your Honor.
Vince, do you have anything else you'd like to present to the court?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
As far as you're concerned, and I know you haven't had an opportunity to speak with your client, but knowing what little you know, are you in agreement that the current placement is appropriate and ought to be continued?
At the last hearing, Judge, my client appeared next to a Walmart and he was homeless. And, you know, I think you've said it several times. It's not what we can do to you, but what can we do for you? And Rudy is aware of all the services that are available. Unfortunately, Judge, he just hadn't availed himself of any of these yet. So I agree with Stacey Zavala recommendation.
Very good. Thank you. And TD, same thing to you. Currently, at least to maintain the status quo, or are you okay with the court maintaining the current placement?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. And I have Stacey's recommendation. Well, based on that, then I do find that it is in the child's best interest to continue the department as the temporary managing conservator. I would continue the placement as appropriate. It is wonderful to hear what a great situation it is with the foster parents and with the biological sister. And sometimes we don't get that kind of feel good in these hearings. And so that's nice to hear. And I will, we're supposed to meet back again on February the 8th at 9 a.m. And we'll keep that on the schedule. And unless we need to meet earlier than that, I'll see everybody back here, or Judge Baker will see everybody back here then.
And Judge, real quick, I know Ms. Zavala recommended no movement of the child without an order or agreement. Is it okay for me to put that in the order?
Please, I do think that's boy, it just sounds like such a great situation. We sure wouldn't want to bother that unless we just had to.
Yes, sir. And that February 8th date is the final hearing also.
Yes. And we're here. All right. Thank you, guys. Review.
Thank you, Judge.
Is the department ready?
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Alicia Walker is my permanency specialist. We're present, ready, Your Honor.
Very good. And Ms. Lucero, you're representing Ms. De La Torre, and are you ready?
We're ready, Your Honor, and I see her on screen, well, her name on screen, or she's connecting to audio. Okay.
Yeah, we may need to wait. She may be struggling to connect to audio, but we'll let her continue that. And there she is. And then Ryan, you represent Mr. Williams, the alleged father, and are you ready?
That's right, Judge. I am present and ready. I have attempted to track Mr. Williams down at his work at United. I haven't been able to catch him when he's on his shift, and I can talk to him, but I'm ready.
Very good. And then the court has previously appointed Ms. Zavala as our attorney ad litem. And Stacey, are you ready?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
All right, very good. Well, let's go ahead and Daniel, we're going to have an update from our caseworker.
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Walker.
So Isabella has been doing really good. There aren't really any concerns for her. The only concerns are that Alfredo has expressed. He's just concerned that Adriana isn't fully ready to take care of Isabella on her own. She's needing to work, either part-time, rearrange her work hours, or find another job so she can be there more for Isabella. She does take Isabella to school every day, but she doesn't get off work till 6 on the weekdays. So the only day she can pick Isabella up from school is on Tuesdays. And she's tried to ask her job if she can work part-time, but they won't let her until around February because I think they're trying to sell their business or something. And Adriana did say she's going to try to find a job working from home, so that'll be easier on her. And Alfredo has also reported that sometimes Adriana will get off work at a certain time, but she won't come home until, hours later, and she won't tell Alfredo like where she is or what she's doing. So Alfredo's at home with Isabella, worried, wondering where she is. So he just wants her to communicate with him better, like send him a text saying like, hey, I'm still at work, or hey, I'm doing whatever. So he doesn't have to worry. And Alfredo has also been diagnosed with leukemia. He's supposed to be meeting with an oncologist soon to, figure out what type of leukemia he has and everything. So he wants Adriana to be prepared, in case something does happen to him and he's not here anymore.
Alicia, how old a fella is Alfredo?
I think he's in his 40s. I'm not 100% sure.
Is he currently, they're living with him in the same home, right?
Right.
Is there any other support there, adult-wise, other than Alfredo?
The grandmother Maria, she can help babysit at times if needed.
Does she live there in the same home?
Oh no.
Oh, okay.
It's just the three of them.
Okay. And so would that be Alfredo's mother?
Maternal grandmother. So I'm not sure.
Alfredo, probably his sister. Because
I
he's
think so.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
okay. And so do you know, does he work outside the home or is he there most of the time?
No, he works from home.
What kind of work does he do? Do we know?
I cannot remember what he does.
He is a nurse, I think. Is that not correct?
Like a physician's assistant or something.
Oh, okay. Awesome. And my understanding is Isabella experiences autism and she's nonverbal.
Right. And she's diabetic as well.
And diabetic. So does she require monitoring and insulin injections?
Yes.
Okay. And do we know, are both Alfredo and mom capable of administering those?
Yes.
And then Isabella, I assume then is in some special needs classes at school?
That's right.
Okay. And do you know anything really much about her situation there? When they have when they're experiencing autism, does the teacher have a teacher's aide that's kind of assigned to that child? Do you know?
I'm not 100% sure how it works at that school. I mean, I would assume that they would have something like that there, but I don't know for sure.
When you've had an opportunity to see the child in the home, how would you characterize the degree of autism that she has? Is it pretty significant?
I would say so.
Are you able to, I know one of the things children experiencing autism have trouble with is eye contact and, and dealing with strange situations that they're not accustomed to. Do you feel like when you appear there at the home, does that cause her some distress?
No, I mean, I've only met her twice. The first time she was just sitting in her chair watching TV. I did visit with her last night for the second time. She did seem a little upset. I don't think it was because I was there. I think she was already upset before I got there, and she was hitting herself on the head and kind of crying. But then her mom came home shortly after that, and she was a lot better when her mom came home.
So they appear to be bonded, and her mom does provide her with some comfort then.
Yes.
And do you also see that kind of connection between she and Alfredo?
Yes.
Let's see, what else was I going to ask you? As far as well, of course, his health is a significant change in the situation, if his health allows it, is it your understanding that he's still open to them remaining there at the home until both he and mom feel like she's capable of handling Isabella on her own?
Yes.
Okay. But obviously he's concerned about whether or not his health is going to allow that to continue.
Right.
What things, I know there was a comment made in the report, and I have reviewed that permanency report that we're waiting for for mitigation of the reasons for removal. What else would the department like to see Adriana accomplish before we feel like she's ready to step out there on her own?
Well, I think she needs to get a better job so that way she can be home more for Isabella, be able to take her to school, pick her up from school, and just be there with her after school. And just make Isabella the main priority and be able to care for her without, relying on anybody else.
I know I read it, but I've forgotten. What currently is Adriana doing for work?
She works at a liquor store.
Okay. And so your hope would be that she could find something either working out of the home or with hours that would coincide with Isabella's school schedule so that she can be available during the hours Isabella's not in school.
Yes, that's right.
To your knowledge, does her school follow the typical school schedule, or does she have different hours than children in a regular curriculum?
I believe it's the same schedule.
Okay. And I know that's saying regular is not an appropriate way to say it. Maybe I should say typical. Okay. And then I also noted I think you're waiting on Adriana to provide you with some releases so you can get some information, I think, with regard maybe drug screening, but I know some counseling she's been doing. What's the status of that?
Well, I'm not able to get any therapy notes if she doesn't sign a release of information. And then she didn't do her OSAR assessment because she didn't sign the release of information, but she's been testing negative. So.
But you'd still like for her to meet with Ms. Dudley and undergo that assessment? I assume that's who does it, Linda Dudley.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
No. Is that something you'd still like for her to accomplish?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Has she expressed an unwillingness to do that, or just hasn't gotten around to it? Or what's your understanding of why you haven't gotten that release?
Well, I wasn't the worker when she refused to sign, so I don't know specifically why she didn't sign it at the time. But since she's been testing negative, it wouldn't really be necessary. If she tests positive again, then we would need her to do an OSAR assessment. So that's why we haven't been pushing her to do it.
Okay. And I did notice she's had a really fairly significant string of I think we had a positive test back in October of 22, but since then it's been negative. So a year of negative testing, right?
Yeah, she's done really good.
Has she just been kind of bare knuckling it, or do you know, is she going to 12-step programs, or how's she been doing that?
I don't really know how she's been doing it, but she's been doing it.
Well, I'll ask her because I have an interest in that. Okay. Daniel, any follow-up you've got with Alicia?
Not with Alicia, yeah.
Lauren, I'm going to maybe ask you to address some of those things here in a minute, but any questions you've got for Ms. Walker?
I just want to make clear with Ms. Walker, the reunification plan has already started. Is that correct? Back in, I guess, just a couple of weeks ago. Is that right?
Yes, on the 14th.
Okay. And as far in reviewing the report to the court, Adriana has been in compliance with her service plan, has she not?
She has.
And then part of her service plan is that she has to be able to show that she can support her daughter. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. So, I know that she's looking for another job, but I mean, if she were to just quit this job so she could be there for her daughter, then she would be in non-compliance because she would not be working. Isn't that right?
Right.
Okay. So, but she has advised you that she's looking to try to find another type of job. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And you had made some statements that the uncle had stated concerns about, I guess, Adriana sometimes not coming home right after work. Is that, I'd heard that in the past, but then it seemed that things are getting better. Is that something that you read in a prior report or something new?
Something new.
Okay. And have you discussed that with Adriana?
No, I haven't discussed that with her yet.
Okay. And when were you made aware of those new concerns?
Last week.
Okay. Have you met with Adriana since last week or no?
Yeah, I saw her yesterday.
Okay. But you didn't bring up those concerns to her yesterday?
No.
Okay. And as far as in your report, it says that the child is bonded with Adriana, correct?
Correct.
And Adriana knows how to care for her, you know, get her meds and things like that. Is that right?
Yes.
And are you aware if Sunrise Elementary has any type of after-school program?
I am not sure.
And how long, Ms. Walker, have you been the worker on the case?
Since November 3rd, I believe.
Okay. Okay. I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Turman, do you have any questions you'd like to ask?
I don't, Your Honor.
Mrs. Zavala, any questions you'd like to ask?
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Let me ask Ms. Walker, with regard to parents, particularly single parents who have a child with special needs as significant as Isabella's, are there any programs for assistance that allow a parent to remain at home and cover some of those expenses? Do we know?
I am not sure, but I can look into it and see if we can help her out.
Okay. And particularly, I guess if the uncle becomes disabled or unable to continue to help, that might really be something we could look into. Okay. And Daniel, anybody else you'd like to call on behalf of the department?
Yes, Your Honor, just because of some of the things that came up, I would like to question Ms. Del Toro.
Okay. Adriana, can you unmute for us?
Ms. Del Toro, you heard some of the statements that Ms. Walker made, mostly about concerns from your uncle coming up about you getting off work and then not coming direct home and him not knowing where you are to be home. Is it a lack of communication between you and him, or are those things happening, and how frequently are they?
Lack of communication. Sometimes I get off of work late. He used to have her in bed and asleep by 9 p.m. So I figured they'd be asleep. I didn't want to bother them. I did have my car break down last week, and I had to get a ride from a coworker. I was trying to get my car looked at because it got stranded at AC. That's the night that I was home late. He was worried. He came out and met me, but my car broke down, like I said.
Okay.
I just figured they'd be asleep already.
Well, and that's one of the instances I was talking about. So when your car broke down, you didn't let him know about it. You just had a friend pick you up and went elsewhere.
Yeah, like I said, he's usually in bed and they're usually asleep by 9.
Okay. Are there any? I know Isabella has some medical needs. So once she goes to sleep at 9, is there anything that y'all do have to check on with her throughout the night, or does she sleep peacefully?
No, she'll wake up sometimes at night. She has a monitor. If the sugar drops too low, I'll have to give her something to bring it up. If it's too high, I'll have to give her insulin. And it's kind of just all night monitoring, all day and night monitoring.
Okay. So in those instances where, as you said, they're usually in bed by then, and you think it's okay to go somewhere else without communicating on that. Do you see where it's necessary for you to need to be home in case those things come up?
Yes.
And communication with your uncle in these instances, he's providing a lot of help and support for you at this time, and to at least be courteous to him to let him know where you are and what you're doing.
I can do that.
So that he's not worried and looking for you.
I can do that.
Are you dating anyone? Do you have a new boyfriend?
No, sir.
Okay, you're not seeing anybody at this time?
No, sir. I don't need any more problems.
Okay. If you do, understand that, if it's somebody that's going to be around Isabella, and that we would at least need to look into who they are just to make sure they're appropriate to be around.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you've had no more contact with Miguel?
No, sir.
As far as the instances of communication, how often does that happen?
I'm scheduled to close twice a night. So usually that's when I'm home later than 9 when they're asleep.
Okay. And what time do they close? What time do you close?
They close the store at 9, but sometimes we have to mop, stock the shelves, and
Okay. And are you working? How many days a week you work?
5 because they're
5.
closed on Sunday and I'm off on Tuesdays.
Okay. All right. So Monday, then Wednesday through Saturday.
My late days are usually Thursday and Saturday.
And there was some talk about possibly you were looking for other type of work that would allow you different hours. Is that what you're doing right now?
My boss asked me to stay. They're trying to count inventory and get the store ready to get it sold. He asked me to stay until January. I'm one of the strongest workers. I understand that I need to be home more, but my car just broke down, so I'm kind of trying to juggle a lot of stuff. I do hope to be with her if at all possible. I didn't have to work. Well, of course, I would be there, but just balancing having to pay all kinds of stuff and being with her is difficult.
Yes, ma'am. And we all understand that. It's with special needs, especially, there's time that you got to be able to do both things. Is it your mother that also helps?
Yes, sir.
Is she the only family member that kind of helps?
I have my sister too. Like when there's holidays, I of course have to work. But usually that's when they'll step in and watch her.
Okay. And who does it more? Is it your mother, or helps out more, your mother or your sister?
Probably my mother.
Okay. And they live not far?
About 7-9 minutes away.
Okay. And is that right now, is that kind of your main support system?
Yes.
In the future, could you please try to communicate better with Alfredo? I know he's got his own stuff going on right now too, but being a large support system for you, just so he doesn't have to have that added worry.
Yes, sir, I will.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Adriana, in the event, and God forbid something would happen to Alfredo, but with this significant diagnosis he's got, in the event he became unable to help out, and even if the housing situation were to change, what alternative plans do you have for the future about living arrangements?
With government assistance, I qualify for HUD.
Okay. Do you know currently, if you wanted to, could you go rent your own place?
Yes.
Okay. So really, it's just right now you like having the safety.
Well, because I like being there with her. I wasn't allowed to be alone with her until recently. And so, yeah, I moved in to try to help him wherever I could when I wasn't working.
Okay. Our caseworkers expressed that she's still waiting for you to execute a release. Do you have any problems signing that release so she can get your records?
I signed one for Mario right before I guess he quit, but I have completed OSAR. I have completed everything that's been required. I can sign another one for her so she can get that information. But as far as I knew, he had submitted all of that before he quit.
Okay. Well, and sometimes things get lost in the shuffle. If you, and feel free to speak with Ms. Lucero about that, but I would like you to go ahead and execute another release. Have you actually then met with Ms. Dudley and done the OSAR?
I did it with daily services.
Oh, okay. Do you know what the results of that were?
I did do their 12-week program and graduated.
Oh, well, congratulations. Because that was going to be one of the questions I was going to ask you. What was your drug of choice back when you were using?
Marijuana when I was younger.
Okay. And any other drug use, methamphetamine or anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay. And so you've obviously been able to stay clean. How have you been doing that?
Well, first off, like I said, I was exposed to it because of living with a boyfriend that I didn't know that I was doing it. Other than that, my daughter, I love her with all my heart, and I would sacrifice whatever I had to for her.
Okay. Well, I'm proud of you for being able to do that for a year and continue those clean screens.
Thank you, sir.
Adriana, are you a reader at all? Do you like to read books?
Once in a while when I have time, I like to study.
I was just going to tell you about a wonderful book that I read, and this goes for anybody that has an interest in maybe understanding children experiencing autism. There's a book called The Reason I Jump, and it's written from the standpoint of a 13-year-old boy that has autism, but it's just a wonderful book, and it really explains, how does Isabella like to stick to a schedule, and if you deviate, change that, that's upsetting to her.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things like that that are in common with people experiencing autism. And this little boy, he'd be a man now, I'm sure, but this 13-year-old boy kind of explains those feelings and how it makes him feel and what's comforting to him. So if you get an opportunity, it's available on Amazon. It's called The Reason I Jump. And it's a wonderful book, and it's not real hard to read. It's pretty easy reading, but I think you and anybody else that has an interest in that would enjoy that book. I need to go back and reread it because it's been a while, but I just found it to be very informative.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I sure will look into that.
Okay, Isabella, any report in terms of being the headliner?
Your Honor, I've never had any concerns with Isabella, with Alfredo. He's taken extraordinary care with her. It was my understanding that the kind of reunification schedule that we put in place before was in preparation for Alfredo to be moving to New Mexico, and that was the original plan, and that Mom and Isabella were going to be staying in the home. It's also my understanding that you are correct. Isabella needs her structure. She is beautiful, and she has come so far in this home. But she used to have extreme night terrors, really would lash out, hitting and things like that. And the structure, the monitoring of the food, medication, everything has really helped. But at about 6 o'clock when Mom isn't there, she notices. And Alfredo has actually stopped his plans to move to New Mexico because he doesn't feel that Mom's ready. I mean, at this point, Isabella comes home from school and Alfredo arranges for a niece to be there to take care of her. I don't think she'd been mentioned previously. I think she's about 18. He is in the home, but he has to work. So Isabella's needs are such that you need somebody hands-on with her. He can't be on his computer screen doing his work and taking care of Isabella. So he makes those arrangements and he makes sure that's in place every time. It doesn't seem like, and it's easy to fall into, she's in great hands with Alfredo because she is, but Mom needs to be taken in more and more of that responsibility because it needs to be transitioning to her. So she needs to be the one figuring out who's going to be there taking care of her. When am I going to get there? When am I going to, instead of just relying on Alfredo to do that, and then her just show up whenever she can. I understand she's got bills and that is a difficult burden, but it's going to require a lot of communication. She needs to take a more hands-on approach and making sure that the niece or whoever is set up if she can't be there, because here soon, whether it's Alfredo moving to New Mexico or health concerns, she is going to have to take on that responsibility. And I think it's been easy to deflect to Alfredo doing that. And it really needs to be Mom focusing on if I can't be there at 6 when Isabella needs me, what's going to be in place for her.
Thank you for that.
Judge Ward, I'm sorry. There was a couple of things I'd like to address, if I can, please.
Sure, please do.
Okay, Your Honor, prior to 2 weeks ago, Adriana, the reunification process wasn't in place yet. But she had moved in with her uncle so she could be closer to her daughter and help. But at the same time, she really didn't have a lot of say-so. She couldn't have unsupervised time with her daughter and things. So I think, it's only been 2 weeks and, and she needs, I think she's trying to figure out where she fits in now. I understand Ms. Zavala stating, hey, she needs to step up and see who's going to watch her child after school and things like that. But it's my understanding she really didn't understand that from the department's perspective yet. She just, since the uncle was in charge, she just didn't know. She was just trying to, find her way, where she fit into that. Now that we've had this hearing today, I'm sure she understands more clearly what it is that's required of her. So I'm sure that, and I'll talk with her more after this hearing, but now she'll know what steps are required because she wasn't sure what she could or could not do. So I just wanted to address that.
No, and I appreciate you pointing that out. And Adriana, sometimes what we're saying is things we want to be helpful and supportive, but it might come across as scolding you. And listen, you've got your hands full with your situation, and I don't envy you at all, a single mom and the needs that your daughter has. So we're not scolding you, and I do appreciate the progress that you've made and recognize that, and you've earned this reunification. And we just want from this day forward to make sure we've got the support system in place to help you continue to be successful. I don't know Alfredo, but what an amazing, beautiful human being he must be to step up as an uncle and provide that kind of support to you and to Isabella. And I hope that he gets a good report on his situation, because if there's anybody that deserves good things to happen to him in his life, it's him. So we'll keep him in our thoughts and prayers, and hope that he gets a good report. Ryan, anything you'd like to add?
No, Judge, I don't really think I have much to contribute.
And I'm assuming, Daniel, at this point, the department would just be asking me to continue naming them as temporary managing conservatorship with the goal to complete reunification, continue the placement as appropriate, but understanding with the uncle's situation, we may need to be flexible on that. Order her to complete the release of information so Alicia can complete her gathering, and then just kind of work towards these few little hiccups in the road now that we've kind of shifted gears, and make sure Adriana's headed in the right direction.
Yes, sir. And they asked if we could go ahead and get a UA ordered today. Also, it's been about a month, right at a month since we've screened. Hair follicle was 2 months ago, so we'll wait on that, but just a UA today if we could.
Okay. Adriana, if you can go get a UA for us today, please go do that. And we'll just continue to document your success. And if you will visit with Ms. Lucero about executing that release of information and get that to Ms. Walker. And Alicia, if you'll look into what maybe additional aid might be available to Adriana once she is the primary caretaker, I would appreciate that. And I would do then continue to name the department as temporary managing conservator of Isabella. I find that Isabella's placement is appropriate, should be continued. I will order that those orders by the court continue to be the court's order. Isabella, I'm required to, by law, just remind you that we need you to remain in compliance. Any failure to provide adequate support or comply with the program could result in you being denied access to the child and ultimately termination. I sure don't see us headed that way, and I don't think that's going to happen, but I have to warn you about that, okay? All right. Well, I'm proud of you. I know it's not easy, and you're doing a great job, and I know you're going to continue doing a great job. And you got a lot of folks here that are on your side rooting for you and rooting for Isabella. And so, if you need help and we're not addressing something we need to be addressing, you be sure and reach out to Ms. Walker, Ms. Lucero, and Ms. Zabala, and we'll try to do anything we can to help you continue to be successful, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. And tell your uncle how much I appreciate what he's doing and how much admiration for him, and that I hope he gets a good diagnosis on his medical situation.
Thank you, sir. I will.
You're welcome. All right. Anything else?
I don't know. I don't remember if you announced it. The next hearing is February 6th, and it's a final.
Yes. Next hearing is February 6th at 9 a.m. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.